The sun beat down like a furnace on the endless stretch of desert highway near the southern border, silent, empty, and unforgiving. An old dusty car was parked at the curb, its hood open, steam hissing in the hot air. Beside it sat a woman, blonde, shivering, and clearly lost. She looked forlorn, staring toward the horizon as if she were running from something or someone. Marcus Reed stepped in, a soft-spoken black auto mechanic in his 50s driving an even older pickup truck that shook like a skeleton in a storm. He was no hero, he was no warrior, just a man with a wrench, a heart too big for his own good, and a lifetime of keeping his head down. When he saw her waving, he stopped, as that was what nice people did. But seconds after he popped the hood to help, a patrol car pulled up behind them. Deputy Harlan Briggs stepped out, tall, red-faced, and clearly suspicious. "Ma'am, is this man bothering you?" he barked, already reaching for his gun holster. Marcus stiffened. He'd seen it happen before, too many times. One wrong word, and this desert could become a crime scene. "She's the one who needs help," Marcus said calmly. The woman, who called herself Rachel, backed him up. But Deputy Briggs didn't buy it. He wanted ID, he wanted answers, and when Marcus handed the deputy his wallet, he looked at it like it belonged to a wanted terrorist. But things got weird here. As Marcus worked on Rachel's car, something was wrong. A quick look in her trunk reveals strange objects. Metallic, out of place, suspicious. And Rachel, she's not just worried, she's hiding something. Something big. What begins as a simple act of kindness turns into a dark path of betrayal, buried secrets, and a twist so wild it'll leave your jaw hanging. Marcus is about to learn that not all damsels in distress are in sometimes. The villain doesn't wear a mask. This isn't just a story about deception, it's about identity, survival, and what happens when the line between truth and lies blurs in the desert heat. You think, you've heard stories like this before. Trust me, you have only. Marcus Reed felt the weight of the desert sun burning through his shirt as he leaned over Rachel's engine, wiping sweat from his brow with a trembling hand. He wasn't trembling from the heat. It was the gaze, Deputy Harlan Briggs's cold stare drilling into his back like a loaded gun. The man hadn't budged from the side of his cruiser, one hand resting casually on his holstered weapon, the other gripping Marcus's ID like it held secrets worth killing for. Rachel stood nearby, fidgeting with her purse, eyes darting between Marcus and the deputy. "He's just helping me," she repeated, voice cracking. But her words drifted into the dust, unanswered. Briggs finally spoke, low and loaded. "You ever been to Arizona State Prison, Mr. Reed?" Marcus froze. "No, sir." "You're sure? Looks like we got someone with a similar name. Warrants in 3 states. Drug running, gun charges." Briggs took a slow step forward, ID still in hand. "You wouldn't happen to have a twin brother, would you?" Marcus swallowed hard. He's been here before. Not this road, not this woman, but this moment. When the color of his skin turned kindness into suspicion. When being a good Samaritan became a gamble with his life. "No to him," Marcus said, steady but tense. "And if I'm being mistaken for someone, I'd be happy to clear it up at your station. But right now, I'd just like to help this woman get moving." Briggs stared at him for a long second, then snorted. "Funny how crooks always find religion when they're caught." He turned to Rachel. "Mind if I take a look in your trunk, Mum?" Rachel stiffened. "Why?" "Routine check," he said flatly. "Just in case you're carrying something that don't belong in this country." Marcus stepped between them. "Deputy, she's just got a busted radiator. I'm almost done here. No need for—" Briggs didn't let him finish. "Step back, sir." His voice sharpened like a blade. "Now." Marcus held up both hands and backed away. "All right, no trouble." Rachel hesitated, then popped the trunk. Briggs stepped closer, but before he could peer in, Marcus pretended to trip and knocked over a nearby toolbox. Tools scattered across the road. Briggs flinched instinctively, one hand snapping to his holster. In that split second, Marcus whispered without looking up, "Cover it, now." Rachel moved fast, slamming the trunk shut and coughing into her sleeve, masking her panic. Briggs cursed under his breath. "Clean up this mess and get out of here. You're lucky I don't haul both of you in for obstruction." Without waiting for a reply, he stomped back to his cruiser and sped off, leaving a cloud of dust and tension hanging thick in the air. Marcus stood, hands on his hips, heart pounding in his chest like a war drum. That was too close. Rachel looked at him, eyes wide. "You saved me." He didn't smile, not yet. For a few silent seconds, the only sound was the engine hissing, finally cooling under the sun. Then Marcus turned to her, eyes sharp. Your car's not going to run again. Not without a new radiator and a miracle. I can give you a ride to town, but first, you need to tell me the truth. All of it. Rachel hesitated. The mask she wore began to crack. I'm not who I said I was, she whispered. My real name's not Rachel. It's Angela Voss, and the man I'm running from is my husband. She looked away, shame creeping into her voice. He's a monster. One of the biggest names in organized crime back east. For years, I kept my mouth shut. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could survive. But after what he did to me last night, she pulled back the sleeve of her blouse, revealing a long, fresh bruise that wrapped around her wrist like a shackle. Marcus stared, silent. He strangled me because I asked him about a missed call. Just a call, she whispered. He said I belonged to him, that if I ever tried to run, he'd carve my face open and leave me where no one would find me. Her voice cracked. I can't go back. Marcus clenched his jaw, fury rising, not at her, but at the sick system that let men like that thrive. You won't, he said. Get in the truck. Ah, Angela paused. Why? Would you help me? Because no one helped my sister when she needed it, he replied. I'm not making that mistake again. As they drove off into the desert, Marcus's hand tightened around the steering wheel. He didn't know what he was walking into, but one thing was clear. Angela wasn't just running from a man, she was running from hell. And he was about to go with her straight into the fire. They had barely driven 10 miles when the road began to curve like a serpent through the hills. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the desert floor. In the silence of the truck cab, Angela rested her head against the window, her bruises glowing faintly in the amber light. Marcus stole glances at her, trying to read the truth behind those tear-filled eyes. I'm sorry you saw that, she murmured. Marcus didn't respond at first. His mind was racing, not just about the abuse, but about the items he had glimpsed in her trunk before covering them up. A black duffel bag, thick rubber gloves, something wrapped in plastic. None of it screamed domestic escape, it screamed cleanup job. What's really in the trunk, he asked quietly. Angela hesitated, then gave a hollow laugh. You already know, don't you? Marcus gripped the wheel tighter. I know what I saw. I just don't know if I believe you. Angela turned toward him, her tone shifting, now softer, almost seductive. You don't have to believe anything, just drive. We're almost safe. That's when she reached over and placed her hand on his thigh, a gesture so sudden and intimate it made Marcus flinch. He glanced down at her hand, then back at the road. Don't do that. Her hand lingered. You saved my life. Doesn't that mean anything? Marcus pulled over. Gravel crunched beneath the tires. He turned to face her. Don't confuse gratitude with affection. You say you're running from a monster. Fine, I'll help you. But don't try to use me. Angela stared at him for a beat too long, then slowly withdrew her hand. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I just haven't felt safe with a man in a long time. Marcus softened. Look, I'm not perfect, but I'm not stupid either. Whatever game you're playing, stop now. I'm not the guy you manipulate. Angela's eyes filled with tears, but Marcus wasn't sure if they were real. Still, she nodded, and they continued driving. As night fell, they reached a small roadside motel on the edge of a forgotten town. A flickering neon sign buzzed overhead. Marcus paid in cash and booked a single room. They'd take shifts sleeping. He sat by the window with his boots still on, watching for patrol cars or blacked-out SUVs. Angela laid on the bed, silent and motionless. And around 2 a.m. he heard her soft sobbing. She made me burn it, Angela whispered. Marcus turned. Who? My husband's sister. She made me destroy the ledger. It had all the accounts, the names, everything the feds needed to bring him down. They knew I'd seen it, so they turned on me too. Said I was a liability. Marcus's blood chilled. So they're after you too? Angela nodded slowly. That's what was in the bag you saw. Evidence. Everything I salvaged from the fire. I wasn't just running from one man. I'm running from a whole empire. Marcus stared at her. The weight of it all pressed down on his chest like a stone. If she was telling the truth, then helping her meant declaring war on a criminal network that spanned state lines. I should call someone, he muttered. Angela sat up, panic in her eyes. No, please. If the wrong person hears, if they intercept the call, it's over for both of us. Marcus hesitated, and a knock came at the door. 3 slow taps. Angela's eyes went wide. That's their signal, she whispered. That's how they knock. Marcus quietly reached for the tire iron he kept in his duffel. Stay here, he whispered. He crept toward the door and peered through the peephole, but no one was there. He opened it slowly. A single burnt playing card lay on the doormat, the Queen of Hearts, charred around the edges. Angela gasped. It's a message. They know we're together now. Marcus shut the door and locked every bolt. You lied, he said, turning toward her. You said they didn't know where you were. I didn't know they were tracking me, she snapped. Marcus glared. Or maybe you did. Maybe you brought this to my door on purpose. Angela stood, trembling. You think I'd put your life at risk for fun? I'm trying to survive. Marcus looked into her eyes and for a moment saw something terrifying. Not fear, not pain, control. But just as quickly it vanished behind a mask of vulnerability. Angela collapsed to the floor. I'm scared, Marcus. I don't want to die. Please don't give up on me. He didn't help her up. Not yet. Because for the first time, he wasn't sure if he was standing in a motel room with a victim or sleeping beside the most dangerous player in the entire game. Marcus didn't sleep, and the Queen of Hearts haunted him. Long after Angela cried herself into a silent stillness, he sat rigid in the motel chair, gripping the tire iron like a lifeline. The desert wind howled outside, rattling the cheap window glass, but inside, dead quiet. Too quiet. He replayed every moment since he first saw her by that broken-down car. Her bruises, her tears, her story. But stories can be rehearsed, scars can be staged. He stood slowly, heart thudding, and walked to the trunk of his truck. She was asleep, he hoped. With a flick of the keys, he popped it open. Nestled under a greasy blanket was the black duffel bag he'd helped hide from Deputy Briggs. It was time to see what he had really protected. Marcus unzipped the bag, expecting documents, photos, evidence. What he found instead made the breath catch in his throat. Bundles of cash, neatly wrapped, marked and stamped, not just street money, government-issued seizure tags still attached. Stolen, unlaundered, dirty as sin. Stuck beneath the stacks was a military-grade pistol, cold and heavy in his hands. And in the same pocket, a single passport, with Angela's face but a different name, Sebastian Voss. His mouth went dry. The photo was recent, too recent, and the details, the male designation, the height, the hairline, it didn't add up. Angela wasn't her name, and Angela wasn't born a woman. Marcus staggered back, the weight of betrayal hitting like a brick to the chest. This wasn't just about lies. This was an operation, a transformation, a setup. He dropped the bag and slammed the trunk shut. When he turned around, Angela was standing in the doorway of the motel, barefoot, clutching her robe closed, her eyes locked with his. No tears now, just calculation. It looked, she said quietly. I had to, Marcus replied. You were never running, you were hunting. Angela smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind that belonged to someone used to being 5 moves ahead. I needed someone disposable, she said. Someone helpful, someone believable, a black man with a criminal-looking face and a soft heart. You were perfect. Marcus felt his throat tighten. You used me to get past the checkpoint. Sebastian nodded. And you made it easier than I expected. You wanted so badly to believe I was a victim, that a woman needed saving. Wait, me? Marcus asked, voice low. Because you're the kind who never walks away from someone in pain, Sebastian said softly. That's the kind of weakness you can't teach. Marcus didn't respond. His hands curled into fists at his sides. You were going to let me take the fall for everything, he said. Ha! Sebastian's smile faded. Still might. Then, in a blink, Sebastian lunged. Marcus barely had time to react. They crashed into the motel wall, knocking over the lamp. A flash of steel. Sebastian had pulled a blade from the robe. But Marcus had spent his life working with his hands, fixing engines, lifting blocks. He grabbed Sebastian's wrist, mid-swing, twisted hard, and slammed him into the dresser. And the blade clattered to the floor. Don't do this, Marcus growled. You don't get to win. Sebastian gasped, bleeding from his lip. You're too late. They already think you're the boss. Your fingerprints are all over everything. You're dead either way. Marcus froze. The suitcase, the bag, the guns, his tools, his truck. He'd been framed from the very beginning. And that's when he heard it. Sirens. Sebastian laughed through the blood, right on time. Marcus turned to the window. Blue and red lights lit the sky. Border Patrol. Local PD. Maybe even feds. You won't walk away from this, Sebastian whispered. Marcus didn't answer. He grabbed the blade, wiped it clean, and tossed it onto the bed. Then, without another word, he lifted Sebastian over his shoulder and charged out the back exit into the desert night. The cold sand bit at his bare feet as he ran, but Marcus didn't stop until the lights were out of sight and the motel a dot in the distance. He dropped Sebastian in the shadows of an abandoned train yard and collapsed beside him. Breathing hard, he stared at the figure who had lied, seduced, manipulated, and nearly destroyed him. "You're going to confess," Marcus said, voice shaking. "You're going to tell them everything, or I swear I'll let the desert finish what you started." Sebastian didn't laugh this time. The first time he looked afraid, because now he realized Marcus Reed wasn't just a helper. He wasn't just a victim. He was the last man you should ever try to break. Marcus crouched beside the battered figure of Sebastian, the person he once thought was Angela. The desert wind had picked up now, stinging their faces with grit. The lights from the authorities still shimmered faintly on the horizon, but out here, among rusted train cars and broken tracks, they were alone. Seriously alone. "You don't understand," Sebastian said weakly, coughing blood onto the sand. This wasn't just about getting away, it was about becoming someone else. Marcus stared at him, breathing heavy. "So you became a woman? Lied to me? Made me feel—" He stopped, his throat locking around the sentence. Sebastian looked up. "It wasn't a lie, not all of it. The woman you met, she was real. More real than the man I was born as. I didn't choose to be this way just to fool you. I chose it because I couldn't survive as him anymore." Marcus backed away, hands in his hair, heart pounding like a war drum in his ears. "Who manipulated me?" he hissed. "You used everything. Your body, your story, your tears. I don't even know what part of you was real." "All of it," Sebastian said quietly, "especially the pain." He sat up, trembling. "You think this has been easy? You think it's a game? I lived under that man's roof for years. Your scars might not look like mine, Marcus, but they're just as deep. I became Angela to escape him, to escape myself. I didn't set out to use you. But when I saw how kind you were, how protective, I couldn't help it. I needed someone to believe in me just once." Marcus was silent. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. Then came the sound that broke the night. A cell phone ringing. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Sebastian's eyes widened. From his back pocket, Marcus pulled out the burner phone he'd found in the duffel, still powered on. The screen lit up with a name. "Bus, incoming." He turned it towards Sebastian. "You said you were running, but you were still talking to them." Sebastian's voice cracked. "They never stopped calling. I didn't answer, I swear." Marcus answered the call. A deep voice growled through the speaker. "You got the package or not?" Marcus didn't speak. The voice continued. "Bring her to mile marker 73, alone, or you both disappear." And the line went dead. Sebastian looked up, terror now fully replacing the calculated calm. "They still think I'm worth something," he whispered. "They want me alive." "Not for long," Marcus said. The sun began to rise fiery red over the desert horizon as Marcus pulled his truck off the road near mile marker 73. He'd tied Sebastian's hands loosely with a shoelace and kept the duffel of weapons in the back seat. His plan wasn't clear yet, but one thing was, he wasn't letting Sebastian go until the truth came out. As they waited, dust began to swirl in the distance. A black SUV rolled toward them, tires grinding into the gravel. Marcus stepped out alone. The three men emerged from the vehicle. Shades, silence, sidearms. Real mob enforcers, the kind that left no witnesses. One of them, with a scar across his cheek, nodded at Marcus. "You brought her?" Marcus jerked his thumb at the truck. "Back there, in the cab." The scarred man handed him a duffel. "Payment. Half now, half when we verify the goods." Marcus opened it. Stacks of cash, blood money. He snapped the bag shut. Then he did something no one expected. He pulled the pistol from his waistband and aimed it at the mobsters. "You're not taking anyone," Marcus said, voice hard. The mobster raised his brows. "You sure about that?" From behind them, sirens wailed. A dozen of them. Border Patrol, state troopers, federal agents, lights exploding across the desert like a 4th of July finale. Marcus smirked. Tractor Cole. Turns out burner phones aren't as private as they used to be. The mobsters reached for their weapons, but it was too late. Officers swarmed in from all directions, pinning them to the ground. In the chaos, Marcus turned back to the truck. Sebastian was gone. The rope was cut, the passenger door swung wide. Marcus ran toward the train yard, breath shallow, heart pounding. He found Sebastian near a rusted rail car, struggling to climb, eyes wild. "Wait," Marcus shouted. Sebastian turned, tears streaming. "I can't go with them. I'll disappear in the system. They won't believe me. They'll lock me up as him, not her. Don't let them erase me." Marcus stepped closer. "Then fight the right way." Sebastian paused. His face broke. "Do you still see me as a monster?" Marcus looked at him. "Really, look." "No," he said. "I see someone who is trying to survive." Sebastian crumpled to the ground, sobbing. Later, after the arrests, the reports, the testimonies, Marcus sat alone in the police station, hands still shaking. An officer approached him. "Are you sure you don't want to press charges against her?" he asked. And Marcus shook his head. "She lied. She used me," he said. "But she also needed help. And she wasn't the only one who learned something." The officer nodded and walked away. Marcus leaned back in the chair and looked at the rising sun through the blinds. He had been fooled. He had been hurt. But he had also learned sometimes the truth wears a mask, not to deceive, but to survive. And no one is ever exactly who they seem. 3 weeks later, Marcus Reed sat in a stiff chair outside the federal courtroom, dressed in a borrowed suit, the collar too tight and the sleeves too short. The TV across the hall played the news with captions rolling. Mob boss Sebastian Vos faces 30 federal charges, including racketeering, fraud, and attempted murder. But none of it felt like victory. Not yet. He looked down at his hands, clean now, but he could still feel the cold metal of the cuffs from that night in the desert. He'd nearly gone down for it all. The drugs, the weapons, the identity theft, the lies. And all because he stopped to help someone. "Marcus Reed," a female voice called. He stood. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Janet Ruiz, motioned for him to enter the courtroom. He walked past the armed guards and legal teams to the witness stand. And there sat Sebastian, hair slicked back, face unreadable, in a sharp grey suit. But something was different now. The mask was gone. Not just physically, though his appearance was more masculine today. It was the energy, the game playing, the charm. All of it had cracked. What sat across from Marcus was the shell of someone who had finally been cornered by truth. "You're aware, Mr. Reed," Prosecutor Roy said, "that the defense intends to plead diminished responsibility, citing trauma, gender dysphoria, and coercion under threat of death." Marcus nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "You're also aware that your testimony may influence whether Sebastian Vos is sent to a psychiatric facility or a maximum security prison." Marcus looked across the room. Sebastian's lips moved faintly. "Tell the truth." So Marcus did. He recounted the desert, the motel, the betrayals, the pain, and then the moment that changed everything. "When I found out who she really was, or who he used to be, I wanted to hurt them. I won't lie. I was furious, confused, ashamed I'd been played. But even after all that, I saw someone who'd been running their whole life, from danger, from judgment, from their own reflection." "Do you believe they're dangerous now?" Ruiz asked. Marcus hesitated and said, "I believe they're broken, and I believe broken people still need to answer for what they've done." The room fell silent. But as he stepped down from the stand, Marcus glanced at Sebastian one last time, and in that flicker of eye contact, something passed between them. Not forgiveness, not hate, recognition. 2 months later, the sun dipped low again in the desert sky. Marcus stood alone outside the shop he'd just reopened, Reed's Auto and Salvage. The name had faded over the years, but the tools inside were sharp, the hands that held them sharper. He heard the crunch of tires on gravel behind him. He turned, a familiar vehicle, but this time it wasn't Sebastian. It was Deputy Harlan Briggs. He stepped out, slower than before, less arrogant, more human. "Got a busted axle," Briggs muttered. "Heard you were back in business." Marcus nodded once, popped the hood. Briggs hesitated. "Also wanted to say, I read the report about what happened with Vos." "Yeah," Marcus said, pulling on his gloves. "I misjudged you," Briggs admitted. "Big time." Marcus chuckled under his breath. "Takes a big man to say that." Briggs scratched his head. "Takes a bigger one to do what you did." There was a beat. Then Briggs added, "Most people wouldn't have helped to hit, whatever, not after what they pulled." Marcus didn't look up. "Maybe not, but most people never lost someone because they didn't help. He slammed the hood shut. Just because kindness doesn't always pay, he said, doesn't mean it's not worth giving. Briggs nodded, quiet, then drove off, his engine rattling like a loose confession. That night, Marcus sat on the porch of the shop, sipping coffee under a sky full of stars. And then he noticed it. A small square envelope resting beside his toolbox. No footsteps, no sound. Just the Queen of Hearts. Clean this time, no burns. Inside a note. Thank you for seeing me. Not as a monster, not as a lie, but as someone trying to be real. You saved more than my life that night. You saved what was left of me. Marcus folded the card slowly, eyes fixed on the desert horizon. There were no easy answers, no perfect labels, no clean endings, but there was something deeper. Truth, humanity, redemption. And above all else, a reminder that the heart, no matter how wounded, still has the power to change a life. Even when it's been broken, even when it's been hidden, even when it's worn the wrong face. Marcus had just closed the shop for the night when the call came. A restricted number, a voice he hadn't heard in months. Marcus, it's me. He froze, the hairs on his neck stood up. Angela, or was it Sebastian? He couldn't even be sure anymore. But the voice, soft, trembling, real pierced through him like it had the first time they met. They let me out, she said. Witness protection. After I testified against the rest of the network, I gave them everything. Names, routes, laundering codes. I'm not the person I was before. Marcus sat down on the hood of a half-finished Buick and stared into the night. I didn't call to ask for anything, she continued. I just needed you to know I kept my promise. He was quiet, then said, why now? I paused. Because they found out. Marcus sat up straighter. Who? The ones who never got caught. The ones buried too deep for even the feds to touch. I have a target on my back, Marcus, and I think you do too. Before he could reply, the line went dead. He sat in silence, adrenaline tightening every muscle. His first instinct was to call the authorities, but then he remembered. Last time he trusted the system, it nearly destroyed him. No, he'd have to handle this his way. That night, Marcus slept with a pistol under his pillow. By morning, he was gone. He left the shop keys with a neighbor, wiped his phone, and hit the highway in a beat-up Dodge he'd built himself. He wasn't running, he was hunting. For 3 days, he followed breadcrumbs, encrypted messages Angela had left behind in places only he would know. An old diner where they'd once eaten in silence. A border fence with a name scratched into the steel. A mailbox in the middle of nowhere holding a USB drive. And finally, a photo. Angela, bruised but alive, standing near a lighthouse in Oregon. The words, final meeting, midnight, come alone. He arrived early. The lighthouse loomed against the Black Sea, wind screamed against the rocks, and in the distance the faint sound of a foghorn moaned like a ghost's cry. Angela stood by the railing, hair whipping in the wind. She turned as he approached, eyes red-rimmed, but fearless. You came, she said. I had to, Marcus replied. We're both unfinished business. Angela reached into her coat and handed him a flash drive. This is it, everything left. The last of the names, the last of the secrets. Why me? Because I trust you, she whispered. More than I trust the law, more than I trust myself. Suddenly, a shot rang out. Angela dropped to the ground. Marcus hit the deck, rolled behind a stone barrier, and scanned the cliffs. A red dot flickered on the rocks. A sniper. Marcus fired twice into the darkness. Another shot cracked the night. A bullet grazed his arm. But then, the sniper screamed. Out of nowhere, a second gunman had appeared, this one not shooting at Marcus, but at the assassin. Within seconds, the cliffside erupted in chaos. More shots, footsteps, shouting. Hidden agents revealed themselves, FBI, DHS, even Interpol. A coordinated ambush had been set up around them. Marcus dragged Angela behind cover, her shoulder bleeding but intact. You set them up, he said. Angela smiled weakly. We set them up. Then she passed out. Hours later, in a secured federal facility, Marcus watched through a glass window as the last of the fugitives were taken into custody. Dozens of agents surrounded a table stacked with files, drives, and international arrest warrants. As head agent turned to Marcus, you should know, Angela won't testify again, too dangerous. She'll be relocated permanently. Marcus nodded. Will I ever see her again? The agent hesitated. No. 2 months passed. Marcus returned to his shop, tried to rebuild, but sometimes in the quiet moments he wondered if she'd ever really existed, or if the desert had just swallowed the truth whole. Then one morning, a delivery truck pulled up. No return address, no signature. Inside the small package, a single crisp Queen of Hearts card. On the back, in a handwriting only he knew, were 4 words. "You changed my ending." Marcus smiled, then tucked the card into the corner of the shop's mirror, right above the register. Because in a world full of lies, betrayal, and masks, he'd chosen to believe in one person. Even when it almost destroyed him. Even when it cost him everything. But sometimes the strongest act isn't walking away, it's staying when no one else would. And in doing so, Marcus Reed didn't just survive, he became someone else's redemption. And that was worth everything. In the end, this wasn't just a story about deception, identity, or even survival. It was a story about choices. Marcus Reed chose to help a stranger on a lonely desert road, an act of kindness that nearly cost him his freedom, his dignity, and even his life. He was manipulated, framed, betrayed by someone who wore the perfect mask. Yet beneath it all, that person was also running from pain, from fear, from themselves. What this story teaches us is simple, but powerful. People aren't always what they seem, sometimes not even to themselves. We live in a world where trust can be dangerous, but indifference can be deadly. And sometimes the hardest thing you can do is offer compassion to someone who might not seem to deserve it. But Marcus didn't walk away from the mess, he walked into it. And because of that, he didn't just survive, he changed the ending for someone else. Maybe that's the greatest form of justice there is. Thank you for watching this powerful story unfold. If it moved you, surprised you, or made you think twice about the masks people wear, please like, comment, and subscribe to support more stories like this one. We want to hear from you. Would you have helped Angela or walked away? Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. Your support means everything. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, sometimes it's the people we almost gave up on who need us the most. Thank you.